Hey, thanks for joining me on the conversation around open houses. So open houses can be an incredible tool, not only for the sellers with their listing, but also for buyers, either attracting them in or helping them to find their next home. So what is the importance of open houses? It brings more exposure to that listing. It could help remedy the length of time that the home sits on the market because it can bring in a lot of exposure. It can bring in a lot more lookers and potential buyers to the property that may not be able to get to it at another time, or not sure if this is the right property and don't want to bother their agent with it, something along those lines. It also helps you get involvement in the neighborhood and have an opportunity to get to know the neighbors, introduce yourself, let them see your hustle, and they might be considering selling their home in the near future depending on how they see you sell and work this home. So it just creates a lot more exposure, and it's an event. Think of the last time you hosted a gathering at your house. It feels great to be a host. You don't have to go over the top and cater some meal, but you do want to be a warm and welcoming host. You want to have some plans when somebody comes in that door with how they're going to invest their time. And you want to have a script ready to go that doesn't feel salesy or slimy. So thank you for being here with me. Let's break this down. So our job in real estate is to match buyers with the right home, and an open house is an extraordinary opportunity to help make that happen. So here are a couple of tips to have a packed out open house. Make sure the sellers are not around. They're out of the house, they're gone. Make sure any pets are not in the home. Get those out as well. Have them leave with the sellers and make sure that they are far away from the property and not spying or, being that lurky looky-loo around the corner. And make sure you have plenty of signage. I think that you can't have too much signage, especially if it's back, in a curvy kind of neighborhood. If the house isn't right off of a main road, make sure you have plenty of directional signs there in the road. Maybe have some balloons on it. And consider this: if you are in a neighborhood that has an HOA, find out what the restrictions and requirements are for that HOA. They may not allow you to put signage out, and if that's the case, find out how you can get exposure to that property. And if they allow signage, are there certain times and dates? I know some communities, they say only on Sundays and between 12 and 4. Cool, now I know. In addition to the signage, have as much exposure online as you can. A lot of agents will list a new property on Thursday, knowing that a lot of people are going to be out shopping on the weekends. So you can host an open house on Saturday or Sunday or both days, especially if it's new to the market on Thursday. They know if you're going to be hosting an open house, you're probably not going to be accepting an offer between now and Saturday at noon when you start the open house. So they won't feel like rushed about having to stop everything in their life and go and see this home, leave work, all those things. They'll see you on Saturday at the open house, and they may or may not have their representation of their buyer's agent with them, and that's okay. Go on to Nextdoor app and talk about it. Go on to Facebook community groups and talk about it. Ask some friends on social media to share about it. Any of your business partners, like your loan officer, home inspector, stager, any of your friends, ask them to share it. A really great rule of thumb, if you want to get in front of more of the neighborhood owners, is to go knock on all of those doors as soon as the listing goes live. So maybe on that Thursday, you can go around the neighborhood. I would encourage you to leave a little letter or a door hanger if a lot of people are not home, they might be working, and just invite them to a neighborhood-only private open house. Consider having it 1 to 2 hours before the public open house, and that way you can get some feedback, but you are inviting the nosy neighbors in. You can get conversation with them, you can give them your card, you can show them all of the extraordinary things that you're doing to represent this seller and this listing well. You can even ask, have you considered selling your home? What would be a perfect number that you would accept as a sales price that would help you to move? What's going on in your life in the next couple of years that might have you wanting to go to some other home? And somebody might say, no, I'm dying in this house. Cool. Do you have an estate plan for that? I can help. So make sure that you invite the neighbors, have it be a private time for them. That way, when they're coming in at 10:30 on Saturday that they're a neighbor and it's not public because you haven't had that time open to public. It also gives you an opportunity to give a heads up to all the neighbors that there's going to be a lot of cars parked in the neighborhood. Giving them that heads up might allow them to feel more comfortable with all those cars parked along the street, coming and going, and maybe ask permission. Hey, can I put some signs in front of your yard that says don't park here so I can protect your beautiful yard? They'll love you for it and really appreciate your extra efforts to look out for their property. Make sure the home is staged and clean. Now, I'm not suggesting you have to have a professional stager in there, although that could help squeeze out a couple extra $1,000 because it looks beautiful, the prettiest it may have ever looked, because it's done by a professional eye. But make sure it's clean. So when you're walking through the property prior to your open house, and when you're asking your seller to get it ready, maybe for the professional photography, when you're getting ready to list it, look at the blades of the ceiling fans, look at the baseboards, and especially look outside the vents on the ceiling. Is there dust and dirt that's been blown all over that ceiling because the ductwork isn't very clean? Get that stuff cleaned up. Look at the corners in the shower and the bathrooms. Can a little bit of, bleach spray help make it look better? Make sure everything looks really deeply cleaned. It's unfortunate, but when our mind thinks that the home is dirty, it actually degrades or disintegrates the value of that property in our home. Take a look at it from an unbiased eye and just say, what about this would maybe turn me off or make me not have trust that this home is in great working order? So now you've invited all of your neighbors, you've planted that seed saying, hey, why don't you pick your neighbor? Come check out the home and start thinking about who is in your life that you'd love to live next door. Wouldn't it be so cool to have your sister, your best friend, your mom, whatever, living in the same neighborhood as you? Invite them with you to the neighbors only private open house, or invite them to come to the public open house if they can't make it during that time. You've got your directional signage, and it's really obvious that this is an open house. If you're able to, stand by the front door and open that door when somebody comes to that door. Welcome them in warmly with a great smile, maybe some information printed out for them, and you're also directing traffic. If there's a lot of people in that property, you don't want to bottleneck, and people would feel weird walking into that primary bedroom if there's 4 other people in there, right? So maybe you can try to direct them to other places, but this is also an opportunity for you to talk about like that spotlight that makes his home very, very special. So when you're at that front door and you welcome them in, tell them your name. They will likely tell you their name in return, and use it as often as you can. They'll feel really special that you remembered it. So I know once I say it a couple of times, I can kind of, not mess that up. If you have a seller that really wants them to sign in electronically or on paper, you can direct them to that. And you could also say, following the introduction of your names and gathering theirs, you could say, are you looking for your next home, or are you comparing values? If they're comparing values, they might already have another property in mind, and they're just, they've got that fear of missing out. They want to make sure that this home isn't better than the home that they have their eye on. Or maybe they are an owner in that neighborhood and they say, hey, Joe is listing his house at $585. I wonder what I can get on mine. And if they say, yeah, I'm an owner, you could always say, hey, I can't do it right now because I'm going to be, hosting this event, but I'd love to have a conversation with you. We could do a comparative market analysis on your home and see how much you might be able to sell it for, and get that person's address. Maybe stop by after the open house, schedule a time to come by in a couple of days, whatever the case is. But you now have an identifier of, is this person a buyer or a owner, potentially in this neighborhood or a close by neighborhood, that's just maybe being a little bit nosy, but being curious about, well, if their home could get that much, I wonder how much my home could get. Also, you could ask them, so what brought you in today? Did you see the open house online, or did you follow the signs in off the road? If they follow the signs in off the road, they might live in the neighborhood. And if that's the case, you could ask them that, hey, do you live in the neighborhood? Oh yeah, we live 3 streets over and we're renting there, but we fell in love with the neighborhood, so we'd like to stay. Awesome. You have somebody who's got a little bit extra motivation for this particular community. So they might waver on a couple of things about the house to stay in the community. If they saw it online, they might have driven across town. So they have a time investment, and if they drove 30 minutes to come see the home, then they might be a little bit more committed than just, hey, I was walking my dog and thought I would see the inside walls, right? So if that's the case, now you've got somebody who has a little investment and a little interest in this home. So find out what's most important to them with this next question. Ask them, what is the most important feature in your next home? And they'll tell you. It's got to have a cool backyard with a beautiful pool. It's got to have a big primary bedroom. My bedroom has to have a walk-in closet. Whatever the case is, they'll tell you. We have a big family, so it's really important to have at least 4 true bedrooms, not a bonus room. So whatever that is, help them see what's special about that in this home. So if they say, I've got to have a walk-in closet because I got a lot of stuff, a lot of clothes, you can say, let me walk you to the primary bedroom and you can go and check that out itself. And you'll walk them that way, demonstrate how beautiful that closet is. Maybe it's got some incredible built-ins, it's worth a lot of money. Maybe it's extra spacious size. Maybe there's 2 closets. So you can say, hey, this one's yours and this one is your significant other. It's the smaller one, right? Or you could say, claim both of these and your significant other can claim a bedroom closet on the other side of the house for their own stuff. Make some jokes about it. But whatever they say is their most important. Spotlight that in this house. What I can't stand, it's such a pet peeve of mine, is when I'm watching those HGTV shows or, one of those channels where the agent opens up the door and they say, and this is the kitchen. Yeah, I know. Could you imagine if you started to test drive a car and the car salesperson says, and this is the steering wheel? Yeah, thanks. Got it. You want to demonstrate the features and the benefits. So when somebody's walking in and they say, an open floor plan is what's most important to me. You could say, I think you're going to love the layout of this house. What I want you to pay attention to is the kitchen over here just around the corner. The current owners had ripped out a couple of walls, made this big, beautiful island in the kitchen, and it's open and overflowing into the family room. So you also have some windows and double sliding doors to the pool area. So you'll never miss a moment when your family's out kicking around in the summertime, enjoying those long summer nights. So show them what's really important. Please don't say, and here's the kitchen. We know. If you can tell they've got older kids, teenagers, something like that, maybe you could say, hey, the primary bedroom's on the left-hand side of the house, and I think that you will delight in knowing that all of the secondary bedrooms for your kids are on the other side. I mean, let's face it, teens, they're loud, they're up late, they smell, like all the things, right? So you might want some space away from them and your own private quiet time oasis over here. So you might be making an assumption, but just explaining some of the actual features on what somebody maybe noticed but didn't really pay much attention to. Especially for first-time homebuyers, they may have never considered, do I need it to be a split bedroom floor plan, or am I okay with the other bedrooms being right outside of my bedroom? And they may not have thought that through until you've posed that information in front of them. So if you're not quite sure how to engage in conversation with somebody, I think the best thing to do is to find out what feature is most important to them in their next home. Spotlight that, like we've just gone over, and then release them to go wander through the home. Now, we're pretty sure that before an open house, to remove any personal items. If you're gonna let somebody walk into a closet or into a bathroom, we don't want them accessing something out of a medicine cabinet or any jewelry out of a jewelry box or anything of value or importance that needs to be kept out of anybody else's hands. So it's stripped of any personal items, and then you're releasing them to go see what they need to see. Let's say they told you the primary bathroom is, their oasis, and that was the most important thing. But you can kind of see that they have a family that looks like they would enjoy a pool. You could direct them to that primary bedroom and you can say, don't forget to spend a few extra minutes out on that beautiful patio. This backyard is like a tropical oasis. The pool is solar heated, so you have year-round time in the pool. And there's also this beautiful waterfall that just makes for this lovely background noise when you sit out for a cup of coffee or enjoying a glass of wine at the end of the day, just to wind down and recharge. A couple of questions to continue engaging with the lookers that are coming through your home. You could say, what's the top thing that you love about this house? And not only are you getting to know what's important to them, but you've also got some feedback that you can share with your seller after the open house. You could also say, what's one thing you would change about this house? Again, it's feedback for your seller, and you're getting to know what their needs or wants are a little bit clearer. So you can help them be focused on that. You could say, I understand being just one block off of a pretty busy road could be scary, saying that you've got young kids, or if you've got pets, or, just the noise for, kind of interfering with time outside or something along those lines. Are you looking to stay in this community but want to be a little bit further off of the road? And then you can kind of start having that conversation to help pinpoint what a better suited home might be for them. Whether they're working with an agent or not, it's safe to ask these. So you could start off saying, how long have you been looking? There are some people that are going to tell you years and still haven't found what they can afford and what they love that collide together. They might say, I've just started, or they might say, I just heard from my landlord earlier this week. They're going to be selling the home and I have 60 days to move out. So they are rushed. They might be feeling a little bit panicked, and they might need something that they can move into right away. So their motivation might be very, very strong. If they haven't alluded already, you can ask them, what's your timeline? And they'll tell you, I am month to month, I'm living with family, I have 60 days, whatever that case is. Now you know how you might be able to best serve them based on their time frame. And then you can ask them, do you have a home to sell? Some people might consider turning their current home, like their starter home, into a rental property and going and buying their next. But a lot of times, if somebody already owns a home, they might need to sell it to take the equity out of that home in order to buy their next home. You might be able to serve somebody now with a listing and helping them buy simultaneously, and what a gift to be gifted to you. So if that's the case and they're not working with an agent, you could say, I'd love to schedule a time where I can share some really important information about all of the steps required in order to sell and buy at the same time. It's challenging, it's not impossible, but there are some things to be aware of, some obstacles to potentially overcome, and the plans that I have, because I've worked with clients many of times, selling and buying at the same time. So I've learned how to best serve you through this, through those prior experiences. And I'd love to share that with you so I can show you how we can do it by removing as many obstacles as possible, getting the highest dollar for your sale, and negotiating the best terms for your purchase. It helps people feel really confident in you when you have a script that rolls off your tongue like that. And then if they're not working with somebody, they'll want to work with you. By asking these questions, you are engaging deeply into a great conversation. There's no reason for them to feel defensive or combative. You're just asking like, hey, what is important to you, and what is your time frame, and what are the things that you need to be thinking about or be aware of in your next steps of this journey. And if they say, hey, I'm working with an agent, that's cool. Just curious on what to know, because if we do find an offer from you through your agent, knowing what time frame is important to you would be important for us to try to line up with the seller as well. Just looking like you're trying to find a win-win there and not trying to steal somebody's client either. So having these questions, it just starts a regular conversation. It doesn't feel salesy. You are uncovering information that can help you help them. And it's just a way to get to know somebody and their goals and their needs a little bit better without pressing in and making them feel like strong-armed to work with you or anything like that. You could ask, are you working with an agent, or do you have a broker's agreement with a realtor already that's representing you? And if they say yes, say great. Write their name on that sign-in sheet. We love to work with other agents. Or you could say, if you're not represented, I'd love to have a conversation with you about your goals and how to navigate this crazy environment of buying a home in this current market. And lastly, you can tell them where to go next. You have all of the resources there in MLS, so you might have seen that 2 or 3 other homes in that neighborhood is also having an open house. So telling them this, you look like the person that's providing extreme value to them. You could say, hey, listen, 2 streets over, it's got a very different floor plan and an extra bedroom. It's a different price point, but at least gives you an idea of the different types of homes in the neighborhood. I encourage you to go there, and so-and-so is an agent. They're really great. I've worked with them before, and they'll welcome you in as well. Tell them that I sent you, that you were over here in my open house. And then they feel a little less apprehensive maybe walking into that next open home, because they were like, hey, Ashley, Christy told me to come over and check out your open house. We just left hers. And now it just feels more warm and a little bit more inviting, and it's not the first open house that they've walked into. I don't know if you've ever walked into an open house for the first time. Can feel a little nerve-wracking because you don't know what to expect, and you don't know if somebody's going to strong-arm you or try to sell you or close you right there, like sign on the dotted line, right? So sometimes people feel a little apprehensive. But if you're warm, engaging, you ask the right questions, you've made it an event, you've made it very purposeful with your time and getting people in, you'll find that it's not a passive, but an active event. You're going to serve your seller well, you're going to attract more lookers and buyers, and maybe even get a reputation for being an action taker, a go-getter, a hard worker, and a hustler to the owners in that neighborhood, where you can now start farming to them with that basis of name recognition and seeing how you could serve them in the future. Have fun at your next open house.